How's it going, everyone, and welcome to the iProgress podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Dean.
And I'm your other host, Craig.
Throughout this podcast series, we're going to be giving you a peek behind the curtain of higher education, teaching and learning, and also going to be providing you with some hints and tips about productivity and well-being along the way.
Now, in this first episode, what we're going to be doing is to introduce who we are, what iProgress is about, what the podcast is all about, and what we're going to be bringing you over the next few episodes.
So Craig, do you want to kick us off by telling us a little bit about your back history, what got you into academia, and why we've joined this company together?
Sure. So I'm Dr. Craig Harper. I'm an associate professor in the UK. What we are doing with this, and what I really am interested in doing, is trying to maximise people's productivity and enjoyment of higher education. So it's thinking through how can we get the most out of the time that we do have. We know that time is limited. My background is in psychology, so I've done work on social psychology, on decision making. I've published almost 50 papers that are in peer-reviewed journals, published chapters, published books, spoken at various national and international conferences. But importantly, what I've tried to do throughout all of those tasks is try to bring in students, try to bring in early career researchers to help with that and to get stuff onto their CV so that they can also develop as they are trying to improve their employability skills.
Yeah, so that's obviously really impressive, and it sounds as though along the way you've got a lot of knowledge from your own experience, but also from your students in terms of just how to benefit, fast track, I guess, through academia in a way that is healthy, sustainable, and efficient, and perhaps some things that just aren't actually taught at university degrees.
Absolutely, yeah. It's these soft skills that people don't tend to pick up in lecture halls. It's about how can you work smart as well as hard. It's not about making life easy, because university isn't easy, doing a degree isn't easy, but it's about how you can make that process easier and much more efficient for both you, your students, and for the people that you're working with around you.
100%, and that's why I'm so excited to be doing this with you. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Dr. Dean Fido. I'm a senior lecturer also from the UK, and I specialize in psychology. I look at people's motivations to behave. I look at their levels of empathy and other personality traits which makes people themselves. Like Craig, I've published a lot of papers in national and international journals. I think I'm around about the 30 to 40 mark at the minute, and I have lots of experience in coaching and mentoring early career academics to becoming really distinguished in their fields, and that's something which really gives me a lot of pride. And in terms of our work together, we've done a lot of work in the area of crime and crime prevention, and because of that, it's led us to disseminate our information to members of parliament, and we've even been involved in changes in legislation. And so what we kind of really want to get the message across to you is that as academics, you can have a huge impact in the world. You can change legislation, you can change the way that people act and behave, and hopefully bring about a great deal of impact to others. So Craig, what are we hoping to get out of iProgress as a company?
I think ultimately what we're trying to do is to think about how can we help people right at the beginning of their career to start to develop some of those soft skills that we've spoken about. So things are like productivity tips, about how to study effectively, how to navigate these kind of difficult social worlds that at university you don't really get taught about. How do you navigate publication routes? How do you think about making an impact? How do you think about creating schedules that work rather than just sticking to a timetable? So thinking through what we're going to be doing in terms of putting together courses, putting together this podcast series, and thinking about growing a community of people that is designed to not only be us kind of imparting information, but also people sharing experiences and sharing that sense of responsibility, sharing that sense of community, so that people can help each other to help themselves.
So it's almost like we're providing students a degree within a degree. So teaching them lots of skills which can not only bolster themselves in terms of their current degree and current kind of academic trajectory, but also that can hold them in excellent stead for when they leave academia and going into their either further academic world or the business world or a leadership quality world.
Yeah, I guess so. It's more about the skills that you maybe don't learn in your degree. So it's not necessarily added qualifications as such. It's more about those skills that you'll need to build on that knowledge that you gain throughout the degree. So it's not just learning how to manage your time, how to do things like that, but it's about taking the knowledge that you have from your degree and being able to almost supercharge that and use it in more effective ways.
Perfect. So hopefully individuals that kind of join this community that we're trying to create, and they get involved with things, and they listen to the podcast, and they look at all of the resources which we're going to be developing over the next year or two. So when they are in those interview settings and they may be stood next to someone with an equivalent degree to their own, they can take that one step further forward and really showcase their skills, showcase their proficiency, and hopefully have a slight advantage when walking into that job.
Exactly. It's about thinking through what skills you can offer an employer over and above somebody else.
And earlier, I note when you was kind of giving an overview of the company, you said that we'll be putting the kind of health and well-being of individuals at the forefront. What makes you say that?
I think there's an acknowledgement that people in academia, people in higher education are struggling a lot at the moment with things like burnout, things like stress, things like high workloads. Now, these are things that are not going to be going away anytime soon. So it's how do we manage those situations in such a way that will allow people to thrive rather than simply just survive in higher education.
Yes, and hopefully teaching them skills along the way to have that resilience, that time management, just ways to perhaps, I guess, adapt to this ever-increasing workload, ever-increasing pressures. And I know for a fact, and I know we're going to be talking about this in next week's episode, I've noticed kind of with my own kind of cohorts and students that mental health, especially as an early career academic, is not at its best. You're juggling finishing off your PhDs, perhaps you're juggling lots of administration work, perhaps moving to a new job, adjusting into that kind of new academic field. And so these individuals are being potentially hit hardest the most. So hopefully by being able to bolster them with some skills and almost a security blanket for when they are transitioning into the academic world, that can be really beneficial for them. And I know that's going to be one of the core topics we're going to be talking about in next week's podcast, which we've temporarily called mental health in academia, but that obviously might change as we discuss and grow throughout that session. So Craig, in terms of us growing this community, how is that going to be looking? Is that going to be on social media? Is it going to be elsewhere?
Yeah, definitely. So there's going to be different social media channels that you can follow us on. So obviously Twitter, Instagram, you can catch us on those. We've also got the website, which is iProgress-cc.com. You can find all of our kind of resources, all of our offerings there. But the biggest place that we're going to be growing this community is on Discord. So we've got a Discord server that you can join. It costs absolutely nothing to join as a core member. If you are subscribing to iProgress through the website, then you'll have additional things that you can access. But yeah, Discord is the key kind of community hub for iProgress.
Perfect. So within that, we're going to be tweeting out and putting on Instagram lots of our kind of hints and tips and just general information about well-being, growing academic challenges, and things that are cropping up in the media as well. We're going to be commenting on that and bringing that to you more or less instantaneously. And then, as Craig says, in the background to this, we're going to be growing a community that's helping each other to cope, asking each other questions, comparing and contrasting perhaps their own institutions and how individuals are growing within those institutions. And that's going to be based in the Discord channel. And yes, we'll be dropping in there as well, but what we really hope to achieve from that is to get you guys talking as much as possible.
So that's it for this first episode of the iProgress podcast. If you catch us next time, where we'll be discussing mental health in academia and hopefully giving you some tips about how we deal with these kinds of topics.